Hey, I'm Tiffany Shepis, and you are listening to Don't Go Out There. You heard it. Don't go out there. There's only bad things out there. There's serial killers, there's crazy action figure people, there's puppet people, there's bears. Don't go out there. But what you should do is listen to this podcast. I'm Tiffany Shepis. Thanks.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. We really appreciate all the support. We are joined today by another legend of the genre with over 150 credits to her name. Known for her roles in Victor Crowley, 12 Monkeys, and the upcoming Killer Babes and the frightening film Fiasco, Miss Tiffany Shepis. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I'm so happy. And my two favorite people from Florida all on the same screen with me. This is exciting.
Miss Shepis, we like to start all of our interviews just by asking, what is it that got you into acting?
Oh man. Well, I was a kid in New York City that went to a school in Manhattan that was mostly filled with kids that were on Broadway and actor kids and stuff like that. And never in a million years did I think that would be an obtainable dream. Like I was a comic book kid and I modeled and stuff for comic book covers and stuff like that and did like some indie films, but um these guys were hardcore. And I was sitting at lunch, and somebody had a paper, and in their paper was an ad for Troma Films, and Troma was casting for a movie called Tromeo and Juliet. And I was like, oh, holy shit, like they're casting that. Those are the people that did Toxic Avenger and Class of Nukem High. And so I cut school and I went down there to the audition. And I think I had like a modeling headshot or something like that. And I lied a whole bunch. There was like a big, almost like a questionnaire, and it was like, what kind of special skills do you have? And I think the only thing I was doing was like taking commercial acting classes and stuff like that. But I was like, I'm a black belt in karate and jujitsu, and I know how to do this. And I think I might have said like I could speak another language. Like all of it was bullshit. And I just thought that you had to have some special skill. And I auditioned for Peter, the bodyguard to the Capulet family, who had to fight because clearly I knew jujitsu.
Oh, clearly. Black belt.
Clearly. And they ended up giving me a part. And yeah, and so that sort of kind of launched that career, because if you know anything about Troma, they sort of throw themselves at you at conventions. They were sort of like a force, especially in like the 90s and 2000s. And everything I learned about filmmaking, I really truly did learn from the Toxic Avenger.
Oh, that's awesome. And our co-host that couldn't make it is a huge wrestling fan, so that's why I even wanted to ask you this question, but he's not here, so he's gonna miss out. But I'm still gonna ask you because I want him to hear it. But you actually wrestled for Women of Wrestling, or WOW as it's abbreviated. Where you were the Ted DiBiase of
Yeah.
women's wrestling. Can you talk to us about that some? And
He is gonna love this story. So after I started doing the Troma stuff, and then I made a couple more horror films in New York, I decided to move out to Los Angeles. And there was another thing. It was like an open casting, or maybe my agent sent it to me. I don't remember, but it was a casting. If anyone's seen the TV show Glow, it is exactly how they did that. Like I actually wrote to them a bunch of times, like, y'all have this exactly right, and let me come audition for your show, which they never did anyway. Anyway, but so it's like they had this casting call, and you go out, and we went to the Forum, and there were hundreds and hundreds of girls lined up there, and of every shape and size, and some cooler than the next and some stronger. And same kind of thing. It's like I had taken jiu-jitsu, but I was nowhere near a black belt. I was just kind of like a street fighting sort of kid. And went in there and talked a bunch of shit about how I loved wrestling, which I did, and loved to fight, which I did, and loved stunts and horror movies. And they were like, dude, you're hired. And my character was Madison, the New York rich bitch, which was essentially like the Ted DiBiase of Women of Wrestling. And the whole storyline they had written was like, I was going to buy off all my fights and buy people's shit and make them fight for me. And it was really, really, really cool. However, we were supposed to fight. I believe it was a pay-per-view match for like UPN, and for weeks and weeks and weeks we trained, and everybody got like their characters down and they got their scripts, and we all trained for these fights, and we were promised that insurance was going to come. And like, oh, don't worry, before the first match, like everyone's going to have insurance. It's all, everything's going to be squared away.
Right.
And as the days leading up, that kind of wasn't happening. So I think it was the morning or the night before, I got all the girls together. I'm like, you guys, like, someone's gonna get fucked up. Like, someone's gonna get super hurt, and we're gonna be stuck paying for it. Or worse, like, you're gonna end up in the hospital and without any coverage of this. Like, it's not okay. I was like, so everyone needs to stick together. I'll be a representative. I'll be like our union representative. And all the girls were like, yeah, rah, we got this. Dude walked in. He's like, yeah, we're not getting insurance. I'm like, okay, no problem. And I was stuck standing there like, I got bitches. Like, I told you, if we all walk out, it's going to be okay. And so anyway, I walked out. And so I actually never fought my first live match for Women of Wrestling. And in fairness, dudes, it is a little bit of a sore spot in my career. Like, cause I loved it so much, and like I loved wrestling so much, and the character was so badass that I think it would have been something really, really cool. But on principle, I had to walk out. Like, it was like, fuck that. You promised something and you didn't deliver. And like, all these girls busted their asses for you guys, and that's sort of unfortunate, like how that always works, right? It's like, the small person, like, does all the hard work, and like the corporation makes all the money, and that's just how it is. But
so it's kind of one of those what ifs type of things. It's kind of still lingering out there. Yeah, I get that.
I mean, it's not like I lose any sleep over it, but like talking about it, like, oh yeah, that would have been fucking cool, because I bet your ass I would have ran that show.
Without question.
Even though I couldn't fight as good as the other girls, I would have paid them all off, right? Like, isn't that's
right? Hey, money makes the world go round. The hazing, you got to work with one of my personal favorites of the horror genre, Mr. Brad Dourif. Can you talk about working with him and your experience on that film?
So working on the hazing was, I mean, first of all, I wanted that part so bad. It was directed by my homeboy, Rolf Konevsky, who did tons of like 80s kind of throwback movies, which are my absolute favorite.
Right.
And when I read the script for the hazing, I'm like, I need to play this part. And he was like, look, I believe you. I want you to play the part, but the producers don't really feel that way. I was like, what? So I had to audition for it like 4 times, and kept getting called back. And it was between me and one other girl. And eventually I got the role. And that was, I think, before we knew we had Brad Dourif. So I was like, fucking crazy excited to get this part, because she was just this sort of badass, like this like tough chick, like super kind of feminist, but also just, I don't know, she was just really cool. And you didn't see a lot of that in those kind of movies at the time, especially like the indie stuff and like, the early 2000s. They don't know, she was just really cool and strong, and like didn't need like a dude to protect her. And so when we got Brad Dourif, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, Brad Dourif, like One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest, Brad Dourif, and voice of Chucky. And they're like, oh yeah, and you get possessed by him. Oh yeah, and he's gonna do an English accent. And I'm like, what?
English accent.
So now I have to do an English accent pretending to be Brad Dourif. Fuck. But he was such a pro that he was like, look, I know I kind of threw this on you guys. Let's, I'll record my voice for you. I'll hook you up. Like, and so we kind of met together and rehearsed it together. And I got like some of his mannerisms down. And it was a pretty big compliment, because when the movie came out, the reviews were really good. And a lot of them had questioned if it was my voice when I get possessed. And it totally was. I mean, they toyed with like the levels and sound mixing afterwards to kind of like lower me a little bit to sound more possessed. But I was like, let's give a pat on the back.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he was really cool. It was a definite highlight of my career. I mean, like I was saying before, it's like I was just a fan of horror films, and so a lot of the people that I now have worked with, because I started so young, like I also grew up watching. So
Right.
it's a strange business to be in those regards.
I definitely get that for sure. Speaking of personal heroes and growing up watching people, I mean, we've had Kane Hodder on the show, and we've actually scheduled Felissa Rose 2 or 3 times, but her schedule is just ridiculously busy.
It's
So
all
we
over.
haven't, yeah, so we haven't had her on just yet. But you've worked with both of them, obviously, in numerous projects. Victor Crowley being one of them. But you guys do a podcast called
We do.
Casualty Fridays. So how did that come about? Can you tell us about that?
Man, we don't have nearly as many episodes as you guys have, predominantly because my co-hosts can never get their schedules together. Damn it. But no, the podcast. So Felissa and I had been friends for years and years and years, and same with Kane and I. But Felissa and I had always talked about doing a podcast or doing a show, or let's like we would just kind of toy around with different ideas all the time. The problem is just kind of doing something with all those ideas. So a buddy of ours, another Trauma alumni, Matt Mandrides, came to us and was like, "Look, have this idea. You guys should do a podcast, and it should be you and Felissa and Kane Hodder." And I was like, "All right, that would be dope. Like, sure. What should we do?" And he's like, "I don't know. You guys should just talk." And so did you come to me with this idea, or am I doing the idea? Like, what do we do? But we literally just got on a phone call that day, and as I was on the phone, I'm like, yo, it should be called Casualty Friday. And everyone's like, holy shit. And it just, I don't know, it's just 3 friends fucking around. And Fangoria at the time wanted to have original programming, and so we became their first show. And since then we've moved away from Fango, and we just kind of run it on our own, sort of like you guys, and we just dick around and talk about movies and talk about horror films and talk about our like individual things that have happened to us on movies, because they are, even though we're all doing the same thing, they're all just so different. Like Kane doing the stunt stuff, Felissa growing up in the 80s and doing like an iconic horror film, but then hadn't kind of broke away from it for a little bit. Like everybody's story is just sort of different. And then we just talk about life and crap, and Felissa likes to cry and tell sad stories, and I like to make fun of Kane, and that's sort of just so it is.
Well, that's awesome. That's one of my favorites about doing is hearing all the stories. So I can only imagine listening to like Felissa just tell her stories. I bet that's incredible to listen to. Speaking of Victor Crowley, you seem to be still very close with everyone you filmed that movie with. Danielle Harris, Dave Sheridan. Can you tell us about working on that? Is there anything that made working on that film so special, so you became close to everyone?
Well, I mean, Danielle and I have been friends for a while, and she's the best, man. That chick's just the queen. Like, I mean, everyone loves Danielle.
Right.
But with the Hatchet franchise, like I had known Adam Green for years. He, just kind of like a lot of like the circle in LA, just people just know each other, whether they had worked together or not. But he had asked me to be a part of one of his like Halloween shorts years and years ago, and I couldn't do it. And it was another one of those like sort of like the WoW wrestling thing, like, man, I should have done that for Adam Green. Then I would have been in Frozen. Then I would have been in the Hatchet one, like, but I couldn't do it. And but we had remained friends, and like all of a sudden you just, we did Scary Sleepover, and it was like, man, we really do need to find something to work together on. And he called me and was like, I have the script, but it's a secret and you can't tell anybody. And I'm like, ugh. Like that means it's not gonna happen. Like that's what like literally like secret in movie world to me means we don't have the money, so we're not really making it, so we don't want to tell anybody about it yet. But I was like, all right, Adam. And I read the script, and mind you, it was such a fucking secret that the ending just cut off in the script. And I thought, oh, for sure, spoiler alert, people say I die, but I don't think I die. But at the ending, I'm like, I must come back. And that's why he doesn't want to give me the end of this movie. But that didn't happen. Anyhow, so we shot, which was Victor Crowley, a new Hatchet film in secret. And everybody on the set was friends. I mean, I personally didn't know a lot of the cast yet. I mean, I knew obviously Felissa and Perry Shen because Perry was in The Hazing with me. Um, and I knew Adam, but I didn't know Brian Quinn yet. And I didn't know Dave Sheridan. Obviously knew of all these people, but when you're on a project and it's very, very fast and you're shooting late at night and you're not there like big budget movies where you're shooting for 3 months or something like that, where you have time to sort of have your own life and also find people that you hate. Like it's such a short amount of time that you just kind of love everybody and everyone's cool and it is just a good time and you're moving really fast and everybody was such a pro on it that you just were like, man, this was just a great time. And I think because Brian Quinn was such a fan of the genre and like he talks about it all the time, he's such a huge fan that you just can't help but be like find him charming and fun to have around, that you're like, oh, all right, you're part of our world now, you know. And so yeah, so I mean I guess to answer your question, did we all become friends on it? I guess because everyone was just cool. Like, and I think that's kind of part of it, like when you're making these sort of indie low budget movies, like you really don't have time to deal with dicks, like, or prima donnas or people that are just gonna just give you a headache and not want to come out of their trailer because it's too cold. Like there's just not enough time. It's not that like you don't want to really necessarily deal with it, it's just you only have 8 hours to film 20 pages. Like,
Right.
so I think a lot of it goes into the casting and who Adam found, who everybody was just amazing. Like Laura Ortiz, I think she's like the heroine in that film and she's adorable and charming and it's like, it's all who you cast.
Absolutely.
Except for Kane, major dick, and I don't know why they keep casting him.
I'll cut that. I'm just kidding. All right, so I've got to ask you about this film you got coming out. Killer Babes and the Frightening Film Fiasco, which amazing name, by the way.
Dude, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say we had Lisa Wilcox on last year, and at that point, like with COVID, and I think it even got pushed back before that. Like she didn't really have a whole lot to say about it. So I wanted, to see if maybe you had a little bit more to add. Kind of. I'm very interested. I mean, the name itself is just very intriguing, and so with all these, horror alum, I really want to know about this movie.
I do too, and you are correct. It is a badass title. The director on that is a guy named Brett Mullen, not McMullen. That's a cousin of mine. This dude came up with this idea that I thought was like, all right, when you first hear about it and you hear the title, it's like kind of hokey and silly, but like his vision for stuff and the way he directs and like the shots that he sent to me ahead of time and like the wardrobe design was so thought out. Like it was not really truly was like no other indie film I'd ever been on.
Right.
Like he hyper designed this movie, but I went there to do a test shoot for the costume because I play this kind of crazy, I don't even know, like she's sort of like this warrior woman who they're now following with like a camera crew as like a survivalist. So like she's doing like her own survivalist show, but she actually grew up that way. And she's just really strange, weird character, but we had lots of things. Like I had lots of weapons that I use and stuff like that. So they brought me out to do like a wardrobe kind of test and photo shoot to kind of go with the promo ads for this fictitious reality show that she has. And I was supposed to come back 2 weeks later, and then we had a huge family tragedy like the day before I was supposed to leave. And I called him and I was like, dude, this is what happened. I cannot come. I completely understand that you're going to have to recast someone and I wish you the best of luck and I'm so sorry and whatever. And this dude is such a great dude. Was like, absolutely not. Fuck that. Like, we'll never recast you. We will push. Well, we repushed, and just like Lisa Wilcox said, to like the day like the shutdown happened.
Oh yeah, jeez.
And this dude was like, are you fucking kidding me? So then he pushed it again to like midsummer, thinking like the rest of us, like optimistically things will be better. And it was like when the second shutdown in LA happened, Like we had like a good little bit, and then all of a sudden they were like, nope, our hospitals are shut down. So all of us in LA were like, dude, we can't come. So this poor guy, but he did have good news. He ended up like having a baby in between all this. That's how long this fucking movie has gone on. And so he had good news and now had to push because he had a baby.
The baby's starting middle school now, and yeah, you're
That's right. And I'm going to be a very old warrior princess. But it's this wacky. I don't know. He just like filled it with tons and tons of genre folk, and it's kind of part haunted movie. Like my character comes in, and it's like she's like sort of her whole own thing that you're following, and she's with kind of one of the lead like kid characters trying to help him save the day. But you name it, genre wise, like Scream Queens, they're in it. And
you're the Huntress Harley, right? Huntress Harley is your name.
Got it. And I'm sure you can look on my Instagram, or I could even send them to you. The images that we did for the character are just badass. Like she's just really, really cool. So I hope it eventually gets made. I think I don't know. Anytime that you have somebody that not only is like a genre fan and gets it and understands like and really like a fan from way back, like, you know, early Scream Queen stuff to modern Scream Queen stuff, to like all the Roger Corman stuff, but also knows filmmaking, I think you're just gonna get like something great, you know. And I think this kid can, so we'll see.
Well, plus all that time, I mean, he's had maybe to work on the script a little bit. I mean, I know, trust me, having a baby is, you don't have any time to do shit. But you know, maybe the COVID time, he had a little bit of time to you know, kind of flush things out a little bit, and you know, maybe it's going to end up being better than ever. So I'm looking forward to it very much so.
Me too. It'll be the longest running ever pre-production film.
I think a lot of films during the COVID times are going to have that 2 year or whatever pre-production and all that.
No doubt.
Miss Shepis, can you tell us about this Day 14 little short you did with your kids?
Oh my God. So we like in Los Angeles, I mean, I'm sure everywhere, but Los Angeles, March came and we locked down hard. And because I am a crazy, insane horror movie fanatic, I was like, fuck, it's the end of times. I'm going to order 500 pounds of beef and fill all the freezers, and I'm locking shit up, and I bought fucking tasers. And you know, I was like, it's going to be dark, you know, like where we're going to have to be hunting for food, kind of scary. Although my husband's like, you're insane. Like it's going to be okay. And I'm like, you never know. I have powdered milk. Don't worry. Like, so I think his way of making sure I didn't go completely insane was to say we need a creative outlet. And he's like, yeah, our son made a fort, and because it was COVID and we weren't going anywhere, we let him leave it up. And like he made it like out of boxes, like, and it was 2 stories, and it had like a slot for the iPad to go in, and it was pretty badass. But it was one of those things, if anyone's a parent, you know that those forts are a pain in the ass, and after like 2 days, you're like, take it down, get rid of it. But this one, because it was COVID, we let him keep it up for like weeks. Like, and we're moving things around it, like I'm cleaning under it, like it was such a disaster. So my husband came up with an idea for the short that it was like, you know, what would kids do if they were on their own in a time like this? And not necessarily COVID, because that's too dark and awful. So what do you think of things like zombies, you know? And so he wrote a film and was like, you know, hey, we should just shoot this for fun, like here in the house. And our kids got really into it. And we're like, you know, I want to do wardrobe and I'm going to do this. And I was like, sweet. And, you know, I'll do all the special effects, which like my secret passion is special effects makeup. So I was like, this is going to be great. However, I should have known better. My husband doesn't just make movies for fun. All of a sudden they're like slides coming to our house and dolly track and like,
wow.
I'm like, who's going to do this? He's like, we are. And I'm like, oh, this is going to suck. He's taking this way seriously, and there were amazing storyboards that he drew, and legit shot lists and giant binders. So, fast forward to day one, I can handle that because I've made lots of movies. My teenage daughter can handle that because she, at the time, was, 15. Our 7-year-old son was like, what do you mean we have to do it again? This sucks. I hate Dad. I hate you. I hate movies. Ah! And that was on like day 2. So we long I've already made the story too long. I'm sorry, but
Oh, you're fine.
basically we made this short film where it's 2 kids who are taking care of their sick mother who's upstairs in a room. But for a lot of the movie, you only hear mom. You don't see her and you don't know what's going on with mom. Um, and so they're sort of kind of taking care of themselves, taking care of each other. And it's not a horror film. It's actually, it's very sweet. It's very Spielberg-esque. Like it's very like kind of just sweet and charming and a little scary and a little suspenseful. But I encourage everyone to like, give it a shot. It's free. Like we put it up on like YouTube. You can just find Day 14, search Tiffany Shepis. But it came, we did it, and when we were done, we were like, oh, this is coming out really fucking good. Like, let's see if any of our friends who are also home just want to play along. So Serena Vincent did a little cameo for us that she shot at her house. Perry Shen, our hazing and Hatchet alum, and Felissa Rose did voices for us from their house. So did D. Wallace Stone. And Ken Foray did a part that legitimately makes me cry. So if you want Uncle Ken Foray to make you cry, give it a shot. It's really charming, and our kids are way better actors than I am, and that's bullshit. And never been more professionally jealous in my life of those little shits. Yeah, they're very, very good. And my husband did an amazing job considering our kids were not cooperative. And it was just cool. And it brought sort of like our little pod of community together too. Like, we talked to our neighbors during COVID, but like we would do like 6 feet apart yard distance drinks. And one day one of the neighbors was like, well, we have a drone. My son knows how to fly his drone. And Sean's like, sweet. Can you be over to our backyard in an hour? And so like we got this amazing shot of like the whole neighborhood. And it came out really, really good. So watch it.
Definitely have to check that out. Absolutely. And anybody listening, go check that out.
It's very different than your like typical sexy scream queen. It's very sweet and charming, and it's cool. Let's watch it.
Absolutely. Hey, speaking of that, you have a few other projects either, in post-production or coming out soon. Can you talk to us a little bit about those? I mean, you got Knife Corp, Happy Slashers, the Marshall Family. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. You've always got some irons in the fire. So, do you want to?
There's always some crazy cool stuff going on. The Happy Slashers thing, those guys are really cool. They're really trying hard to get this kind of animated horror series off the ground, and there's a lot of voices involved in that, which are really, really, really cool. And working on a lot of good, very fun voice stuff, which has been a really good time, especially during COVID, since we still don't go too many places.
Right.
We have I don't even know if I could tell you about it yet, but I'll just tell you a little sneak about it. But we're doing, I don't even know if I can tell you, but we're doing something very, very cool that will be out for Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some fun voice stuff. There's also, I did a audiobook for really cool genre authors. Jay Sanderson and Adam Girosh did a book called Graves Anatomy, and
Nice.
it's full of monsters. And if you don't like to read, don't read. Listen to me read it to you. And it's a lot of fun, and it's like super cheap on Amazon. So you can give that a shot. And then also we have, Casualty Friday, which we don't do as religiously as you guys, because like I said, my co-hosts can't ever get their shit together on schedule. But it's okay. Maybe I'll have you guys come in and be our fill-ins.
Oh, trust me. Like I said, we've scheduled Felissa a few times, so I know her schedule's busy as hell. she's messaged me from the set sometimes, be like, hey, I can't make it today. Can we reschedule? So I know she's
When
there.
I book her for Casualty Friday, then we'll get her on your show.
Okay, yeah, just call me up and we'll just act like we're on there.
I'll try and fill in for Kane if you ever need me to.
Yeah, right.
That's easy.
I'm sure I'm sure I'm a
this.
big name puller like he is.
Just, hey, everyone, it's Casualty Friday. That's it. Yeah.
He wasn't like that when we had him on. He was very personable. It was a really good time.
He's the best. He's a lot of fun. It's funny because he takes a lot of shit from us on the show.
I bet
But
he
his
does.
stories, like the amount of movies that he's done, especially on the stunt side, it's just like every time we talk on our show, we're like, wait, you were in that? Wait, you were in that? Like, and
Right.
it's crazy. And his stories and his memory of the people that he's worked with, it's unbelievable. So, I mean, they're a great team. And, we're approaching our third season, which we actually said we would take suggestions from fans. And if you shout out your city to us, we're going to put them all in a big fishbowl. And for next year's season premiere, we're going to go to that city and actually record from that city with that fan. And do a tour of like their haunted places or whatever. So, shout out some Tallahassee or some Pensacola, and maybe we'll come do it from there.
Hey, Pensacola Lighthouse had all kinds of ghost hunter shows come on there. So hey, come on over.
There you go.
All right. So just shifting gears, and this is just kind of a fun little question that we honestly started asking with Lisa Wilcox. I know we've already brought her up earlier, but ever since then we've had some pretty funny responses. Especially Kane Hodder's actually was pretty funny. I don't know, something about somebody rubbing his nipples or something. I don't know, something crazy. But you frequent horror movie conventions, of course. So do you have like what's the oddest or just weirdest thing that you've ever witnessed or maybe experienced at one of those things?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I think I don't really get super weirded out by much. I mean, I guess there's a lot of weird shit that happens with Kane and those guys.
Yeah.
Like my people that come to hang out with me are pretty cool. So I don't have too much super crazy. There's just some shit that I just don't get. Like, I did have a dude that came to me and he had specially made a miniature like action figure of himself and wanted me to like break that shit. And it became very apparent at first, like he was showing off his little mini action figure of himself. I'm like, oh, that's pretty rad, dude. Like, oh, how'd you do that? 3D printing, blah, blah, blah. Like, and then it became really obvious, like, oh, this is your thing. Like, you want me to like make your action figure because you're into it. Like, and I don't judge. I don't care what gets people off. Do you. It was just one that I was like, that's different. Like,
right, okay.
So I guess I could say I thought that was a little strange, but possibly because I'd never seen that before. Like, really wanted people to humiliate his mini action figure of himself.
Yeah, I would chalk that up. That ranks right up there. So yeah, that was a very good one.
But like under the guise of like, what would happen to this little man in a horror film? And of course I'm like, your little dude would fuck shit up, sort of like Trilogy of Terror. And I don't think that was the answer he wanted. Like, he didn't want to be the winner.
Oh, gotcha. Well.
Yeah. So that's it. That's what I got.
Oh yeah. Woo. Miss Shepis, I just want to thank you for joining us on the show. Before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to plug? Maybe shout out your social medias or any other upcoming projects you haven't mentioned?
Upcoming stuff. Well, we have a lot of really, really, really cool Scream Queen stuff. I don't know if you check out my Instagram, Danielle Harris, Scout Taylor Compton, and Serena Vincent have been doing some really very, very fun things that, again, it sounds like bullshit to be like, I can't tell you about it. I mean, I can. They're photo shoots for something. But lots of stuff like that. We have the book. We have a spooky Halloween album coming out. You can just listen and check out my stuff on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. I'm under Tiffany Shepis or Tiffany Shepis Tretta. And also make sure you continue listening to Don't Go Out There. My absolute favorite podcast besides Casualty Friday. Don't Go Out There, Tiffany Shepis. Make sure you listen to it. Tell your friends, subscribe to it, and I don't know, keep being weird.
Right, she loves the podcast more than I do.
Yeah, keep being weird, guys. Just do not bring action figures anymore to these things and break them. Just let's not do that.
Bring an action figure and let's hang out with it.
Yeah, there you go, exactly. All right, well, thank you so much
for joining us. This was a blast.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you guys. This was a lot of fun. I hope it wasn't sucky and boring.
No, absolutely not. So we'll
fun.
definitely have to have you back on sometime, especially when the fiasco comes out at some point. Like, we definitely want to have you on and talk about that, maybe.
Yes, 2047 will be a date.
We'll be on episode 135. All right. So. All right. Thank you again very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And just want to remind everybody to don't go out there.